Hi Stampers, it's Lisa. Welcome to today's live. Today we are doing a pop-up flip card. So this is a card I've done before. This is kind of a remake of, I did it with an oval and flowers last time, but this is in volume 1 of my Fun Fold tutorial book, and I haven't done it in a while, so I thought maybe we would revisit it and give it a masculine spin this time. So I'm excited to show you how it's done. Let me move down to my desk. Hopefully the sound is a little better. I am not sure what's going on with it. I'm still working on a few things. I've switched to a different mic. Hopefully that helps. Still would like my existing mic to work, but it is what it is. I've gotten kind of some funny comments on YouTube, like people think I'm not working on it. I am. I'm working on it. I'm trying. I just don't have that much technical knowledge to fix it or the money to go out and buy all new product. But anyway, here we go. Here is the card we're making. And you can see it's got kind of a pop-up stand back there and an L bracket holding that together. And we're calling this a pop-up flip card. As I said, it's out of the Fun Fold tutorial book 1. This is some great Fun Fold patterns with diagrams and full instructions. And I have 2 currently that you can choose from, and a third one is on its way. So lots of good stuff there. For today's card, we are going to start with a crumb cake card base. Okay, so this is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. For the front of the card, I have a piece of Boho Vibes Designer Series paper. And this is 4 by 5 1/4. When I did the 5 1/4 off of the 6-inch, I had some excess left over. And so I split the difference on what was left over. And so I'm going to add that to the inside, bringing the design from the outside of the card into the inside. And it was just a way to kind of use up some scraps. I can use the 2-inch piece across the top on a whole nother card, but this 4 by, what is it, 3/4, there really wasn't much to do with, so we'll use that on the end. Inside, those are going to be mounted on a piece of Very Vanilla that is 5 1/4 by 4. I have some circles that were die cut using the Stylish Shapes dies. You all know that basic shapes are one of my favorite things that Stampin' Up! Has, and so I used the largest circle and then the next one down. And technically we could get a crumb cake one right out of the front of our card when we die cut our hole. And then there's the little L bracket. This is 3/4 by 1 1/2, scored at 3/4. And then our little box that's going to go on the inside, this is 2 1/4 by 4, scored at 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, I have some little scraps of paper that we're going to stamp our mushrooms and the sentiment on. Some has adhesive sheet, some of it doesn't. In order to do this flip card idea, the first thing I need to do is adhere my designer series paper to the front of the card. So I'm going to come in with some adhesive. And we're just going to go kind of around the outside edge. When I did my card here, I put adhesive all over with liquid glue, and then my center circle was glued together. So my designer series paper is permanently adhered to the crumb cake piece that was cut out. If I wanted to save myself some cardstock, what I can do is not have adhesive in the very center, and then I'm going to go ahead and die cut And then these two will be separate pieces instead of glued together. For this, I'm going to need my larger cut and emboss machine, so I'll load that off to the side. It takes up a lot of room on camera. I'm going to bring in my platform. This is actually from Sizzix days. I have my old magnetic platform, but you could, of course, use the one that comes with that. And I have the Sizzix Precision Chrome base plate because I use this so that I don't have two dies that are, or two plastic sheets that are doing this to me. I have the worst time trying to keep these things straight. There's all these little tricks about, you know, if it gives a little, flip it over and make sure that each time you go through, you flip it over. There's all those things. But that bottom plate does save me a lot of frustration. So as I said, I'm going to use the largest of the circles. I'm placing that in the center of my card. So just, you know, dead center in the middle. And I'm going to run that through. The ones with the little teeth, when they have some kind of stitching, I have a tendency to use my finger kind of and press along the edge so that when it pops out, I'm not ripping any paper. And then, as I said, because I didn't use adhesive in the middle, now I have two separate circles. If I had glued the whole thing, they would be stuck together, like my other one. So we're going to save that circle. And then I'm using the next size down to do a very vanilla circle. Okay, so there's those two. Now all my little pieces are going to glue in the middle here. And so first what I'm going to need to do is put down my inside layer. And because my sentiment is on the little circle flip thing, I don't really have anything stamped on the inside. I'm leaving that open to write my message. But if you wanted to stamp something on the inside, do that first, then come in and adhere the side pieces and then glue it to the inside of your card. Because Stampin' Up! Paper has, you know, two sides for a reason. And then sometimes if you're putting liquid glue on and you're thinking, ooh, that might be a little bit too much, you can take another piece and kind of mush them together. And now we have evenly spread the glue on two pieces and used a smaller amount. Okay, so we're just putting that down in the center. Now I want to put my little pop-up mechanism box kind of thing. But what I want to do is I want to adhere it just above the little score line. And then we're going to adhere it just below the score line. So you see there's a little bit of a gap in the middle, just the same size as our score line. And that's how it's going to straddle that piece in the middle. Usually when a card gets a lot of movement, you know, if there's a mechanism like that, I will tend to use tear and tape because this is a stronger adhesive. And I want to be sure that this is good and stuck. easy to pop the backing off when you have the take your pick tool. Let's go ahead, let's do this one first. And yes, I realize it is sticking up a little bit, so we probably shouldn't have had adhesive right there. But we'll fix that in a second. When you do this with an oval, as I did last time, it didn't actually stick up in the middle here as much because the oval was obviously more this way. But whenever there's adhesive out there that we don't want it to, that's a little much to be using the adhesive remover, which is one option. The other option is to take the embossing buddy, which has this little powder in it, and we can just dab over that. And then that's going to take away the sticky. Okay, this little L bracket is going to go right here. Excuse me. So is anybody a huge fan of the end colors? Just before coming on, I was listening to our leader update from Stampin' Up, and they have an upcoming sale that will be involving in colors. So that was kind of an exciting announcement. So we will know more about that tomorrow, so I'll make sure that's in my newsletter. Make sure you're opening those things. I have quite a few people that get my newsletter and don't open it, so I'm going to set up an automation that will automatically delete people that are not opening them for like 2 or 3 months. Okay, so now I have the exposed sticky here on my little L bracket. Now I want to very carefully align this in that hole because I want it to fit exactly where it came out of so that it easily opens and shuts. Okay, and then that's going to go in the middle, but that's where we're going to stick our mushrooms. So let's go ahead and do that. I don't have all the information on the sale yet. They kind of tease us that we want to make sure we watch tomorrow's updates. So tomorrow morning I will know more about the sale. Just know that it's coming. And my newsletter will have all the information. Okay, I have this scrap paper underneath here because the first thing I'm going to do is stamp the little hill in the background, and I wanted that along the bottom, so I'm going to let that run off the edge. I'm going to do that in Mossy Meadow. We also got kind of a sneak peek of the new items that are coming out for the September online exclusives, so I'm happy to say there will be quite a bit of Christmas available in those. Sorry, I just noticed there's a little tiny bit of cardstock making a line in there. Sometimes if you get little flecks like that of this, you know, obviously it's cardstock this time, but if you have cardstock or glitter or the gold flaking, anything like that gets over your ink pad, did you know that you can run over it with those rollers that take care of dog hair, like those ones that are double sticky, kind of masking tape like stuff? You can run those over the top of your ink pads and pull all those things off, which looks like it's probably time I do that. Okay. Now it didn't quite come all the way down to the bottom, but I'm okay with that because one of the things I'm going to do, which is why I should have left this open, is take the sponge dauber and I'm just going to kind of darken up the edges. And so you can see by doing that, I just covered up that little bit that didn't get it. Now we can bring in our mushroom pieces and our sentiment. So I'm going to start out with our little stems. So I have that one right here. Actually, I already done that one. There we go. And then this one I'm going to do over here. And I'm kind of getting them close to an edge because I want to fussy cut this one because there is no punch. Look at that. And then I cut them into strips so that when I fit it through the punch, I can make sure that I'm getting just that. Because sometimes, depending on where that is, see how that is way in the back? I wouldn't want to punch out all this excess stuff unless I had done a template. Have you seen those when you do a template where you would punch this out as a whole and then you would set down your pieces inside of it? Okay, I have one in here, I know. Okay, so I would put the various pieces inside the hole. And then pick them all up with the block so that when I go and stamp this, I know that then I can put that directly into the punch and it's going to punch out all 3 items at once. And they're already stamped. Okay, let's see. Okay, my mushrooms I'm going to do in early espresso and pecan pie. Again, on a strip that I can feed through there and make sure that it is punching out where I want it to. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the bigger one, huh? Okay. And then I'm going to take and stamp the sentiment. Sorry, I'm just digging around for a small piece. There we go. Okay, so I'm just breaking this up into 2 pieces. And then we can fussy cut out this one. It has adhesive sheet on the back, so this will be easy to apply. It'll be kind of like a sticker. When I fussy cut, I kind of get my hand comfortable, and then I turn the paper as I come down. And that makes it a whole lot easier for me to control because I have more control over the scissors when my hand is comfortable. And I'm also making sure to be right along the edge because I don't want any of the very vanilla showing on the edge of this because that's the way this punch works. Although I can show a little bit because we're going to sponge daub the edge, so that will cover up some of it. But the basic gist is I want this as close to the actual ink as possible. Because see, when the punch punches out, it goes inside of the line. And that is on purpose. They wanted to be sure that the color went all the way to the edges with this one. And that's going to work the same with our little mushrooms here. You see how it does just inside the line? And that's different. Sometimes it's just outside the line. Okay, as I build my little scene, I want the mushroom stem to be on the outside. To me, it looks more natural as we're looking under the mushroom to have it go up into the mushroom head itself versus when it's on top like this. Because if you look, we're looking at the underside of the mushroom, and on the underside of the mushroom, we would see where it joins the base. So to me, that's just more correct to go that way. And as I said, this had the adhesive sheet on the back of the stem. So we can go ahead and peel this back and the top will be sticky. And I'm only going to peel back some for right now because then I can fold it back up and it's not going to stick down yet, but it'll allow me to kind of move it around as one piece instead of two. This designer series paper is Boho Vibes. And it was one that's kind of a bold boho looking pattern that is a little bolder than my normal style. So that's again where I love that Stampin' Up! Does something where if it's really bold on one side, it's a little more subtle on the back. So if I bring up paper, you'll see on one side, it's very bold and colorful and artistic. But then on the back, it has all these great, more subtle patterns. So a lot of these would work well as backgrounds that would not distract from whatever you're stamping. And it was kind of a challenge as I got ready to make this card because we used to have some designer series paper that went with the mushroom and we don't have that anymore. But it was also all in pinks and yellows and neon colors. So it wasn't really going to give me the masculine feel I was going for anyway. So it's all good. Go ahead and adhere this. And then, as I said, I was going to bring in my little sponge daubers and just kind of ink the edges a bit, just to give it a more don't know, kind of a dirty outside feel. You know, they're mushrooms, right? They're in a field. They don't have white edges to them, so probably could have done that before I put the stem on. So, right, I have all of my little sponge daubers in this little box that I picked up online. And then I made the top guide that shows me where they fit in here so I know what colors they are. So this is something that's available on my website as a download, or I can laminate it for you and mail it to you, but then you pay shipping. So now we're ready to put on our mushrooms. And then just these little thank yous. So I'm going to start from the bottom. So I'm going to do the thank you and then add the just a little. Again, I want to make sure I'm not using too much adhesive. So I'm going to put those together and share. Then for the embellishment, I thought the brass butterflies would go well. Okay. Okay, so there is our finished pop-up card. All right, so thank you for joining me. I hope you love the card and you give it a try. And then let me know what bundle and what designer series paper you decide to make your card out of. See you on Thursday. Thanks. Bye.